إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. The munafiqun are going to be in the lowest depths of Jahannam. We will then make an assumption that, and this is not explicit but it is derived, that the munafiqun will fall from the sirat, but their fall will be different than the fall of the sinful people. Their fall will not be the fall of the fasiq. Their fall will be through different mechanisms. Maybe there's going to be separate hooks that are coming for them, and they shall be dragged to the lowest of the low. Even worse than those who rejected Allah are those who pretended to be Muslim as they rejected Allah, and that is hypocrisy. We seek Allah's refuge from that. So we learn from this that the people of Iman will get to the Sirat, and that majority of them or many of them will cross over, but some of them will fall from the Sirat into the peripheries of Jahannam. Now, we have to now ask the question here. The people who are falling into Jahannam, the people who are, and we seek Allah's refuge, we don't want to be amongst them. Did they know that they're going to be falling into Jahannam? And it appears, and again these are all things that we're deriving from the text, it appears, and Allah knows best, that those believers who are falling into Jahannam, they are expecting to fall in. Why? Because the results have already been given. The examination has occurred. The hisab has taken place. The scrolls have been handed out, right? The mizan has already been demonstrated. And so everybody already knows their fate. And so the manifestation of that fate is already known to them, but now it's going to go through it. So the ones who are falling into Jahannam, it's not a surprise for them. They have been told beforehand that because of this, suppose we seek Allah's refuge, somebody murdered somebody did whatever they did, major sins, but they're a believer, okay? So they deserve to be punished. They have been told on the plains of the Day of Judgment that you're going to go to Jahannam because that's their punishment. And so they're expecting it. It's not something that, now obviously it is understood that there is still hope for them, that they're crossing, their heart will be yearning for Jannah, but it's not going to be a surprise that they end up where they end up because they have already been informed. However, we can also make another assumption from the generalities of the text. And all of these, by the way, I am very clear. When I make an assumption, I stated it as assumption. When I say the Quran and Sunnah says, I'm very clear because you should all know the differences between these. My assumptions could be right and wrong. The Quran and Sunnah is obviously never wrong in this regard. So an assumption we make as well in this regard is that the people, there will be people, this is an assumption, who are told that they're going to go to Jahannam, and they expect to go to Jahannam, but they shall be saved by simply scratches, or by the fear of going to Jahannam, and they don't actually go to Jahannam. And that punishment of thinking they're going to go to Jahannam, or as the Prophet said in the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, some will be scratched but still saved. Okay, scratched but saved, what does that indicate? It indicates there's a category of people that their punishment was that what happened on the bridge, that they thought that they're going to go to Jahannam, and they were punished in a certain manner by the scratches coming, by the hooks coming out, by the thought that they're being dragged. The hook comes and it just misses them. Allah's qadr. No, in the end of the day, obviously nobody can be safe unless Allah wills them. It misses them, but it leaves some pain and suffering and some scratches. That pain and suffering, along with the torture of thinking that they're going to go to Jahannam, that is what their kafara was for the sins of this world. And eventually they get to the end and they shall then make it to Jannah. So from all of these texts, therefore, we learn and we can derive that the munafiqun and the fasiq and the mu'min, all three will get to the bridge. That the munafiq will immediately be taken out because they are not even going to get, the light will be taken away from them. And either they fall in directly or from the hook, we do not know. We do not know. They could possibly just fall in directly, we do not know. And in either case, whether it is a hook or whether it is falling in directly, they shall go to a different part of Jahannam. And that is reserved specially for them. Okay, they have a special status in Jahannam. Then the believers and the righteous of the believers and the unrighteous or the wicked or the evil of the believers. They will cross over the sirat, and the first batches are going to be going at the speed of light. I already mentioned, it's interesting that our Prophet said the speed of light, so the physics majors here can read into that. And then the speed of horses, this and that. So they're going to be going super fast, and they cross over and they're all fine. Slowly, people are going to be going less, quickly, and then some are going to slip but recover. Some are going to be injured or harmed by the hooks that are coming, but still make it. And that injury or that harm or that terror shall be the kafara of the sins that they did. And so it is possible some people will be told you're going to Jahannam, and they don't go to Jahannam because Allah's mercy is going to come in and save them at the very 11th hour. This is the very end time. This is the last time, that's it. Because if you're not saved now, khalas, there's no other place to go. So there will be a batch of like this as well. And then this is how the unrighteous of the believers are going to enter Jahannam. A different area. They're going to be taken from the bridge, and they're going to fall into a special area of Jahannam, not the depths of Jahannam, but rather the peripheral regions of Jahannam. And there will also be each one in accordance with his or her crimes, and each one for the length that Allah has decided for them. And then, of course, Shafa'ah will kick in after that. And I already talked about Shafa'ah, that there are going to be people that eventually batches by batches are going to be taken out. I already mentioned those that used to pray and fast and give zakah, their bodies are not going to be burnt by Jahannam. They will feel the heat of Jahannam, but their bodies will not be burnt by Jahannam. It is impossible in Allah's mercy that the one who was regularly praying and fasting and doing the fara'id, it is impossible that the body of that person will be burned in Jahannam, even if they physically are in Jahannam and they experience the heat of Jahannam and the pain and the suffering, but they will not be burnt because they lowered their head to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they had levels of iman and taqwa. And we mentioned there's going to be different categories below this. And then the believers are going to cross over the bridge, and once they cross over the bridge, now we get to the actual final stage before entering Jannah. And it is the final stage of the Day of Judgment for the believers. Of course, the Day of Judgment has already finished for the munafiq and for the fasiq and for the kafir. All of them, we've already talked about where they're going to end up. Now we have one category left, and that is the category of believers. They've crossed over the sirat. Now what's going to happen? The final, very final stage or the act of the Days of Judgment, the very final scenes of the Day of Judgment for the believers is there's one area left. One marhala, and it is called the qantara. The qantara. What is the qantara? The qantara is, in the Arabic language, the qantara is a small semicircular bridge, generally speaking. In the good old days, like they had castles and moats and whatnot. So the bridge that covers a moat, the small little bridge,